Reddit, when did doing the right thing horribly backfire? Edit, wow, karma's a bitch, huh? So here's a rundown of what not do so far. According to Redditors, don't help drunk homeless people, especially drunk homeless people. Don't lend people money, because they will never pay you back. Don't be a goody two shoes really for snack time. Don't leave your vehicle mode of transportation unattended to help old ladies, as apparently karma is a bitch and will have it stolen from you or have you locked out of it. Amongst many other hilarious horrific tragic stories. Edit 2, added locked out since I haven't read a stolen car story yet. Still looking through all your fascinating stories, Reddit. Edit 3, as coincidence would have it, today I received a Kindle Fire HD via UPS with my exact address but not to my name, or any other resident in my 3-family home. I could have been a jerk and kept it, but I didn't. I called UPS and set up a return pick up for the person. Will it backfire? Given the stories on this thread, more likely than not. And even though I've had my fair share of karma screwing me over, given the chance, I would still do the right thing. And it's my hope you would too. There have been some stories with difficult decisions, but by making those decisions they at times saved lives. We don't have to all be paladins of righteousness, but by doing a little good in this world, we can at least try to make it a better place. Good night, Reddit. And thanks again for the stories. Edit 4, sorry for all the edits, but so much Reddit gold. Awesome way to lighten up the mood of the thread. Bravo, Redditors. Please like, subscribe and comment so I can create more videos for you. I was in an extremely weird and once in a lifetime kind of car accident where I was supposed to be not at fault. I really don't want to go into detail, but another car hit me going twice the speed limit, sending us both rolling down into a ditch. I got out through the windshield since it was shattered and was able to cut the airbag. The other car was in much worse shape and was on fire. I ran up to see if the driver was okay, but she was falling in and out of consciousness. Her car was upside down and roof was caved in, pressing her into the seat. The seat belt was tight around her and her airbag wasn't deflating. I struggled with the door and was able to get her out as the fire spread onto her. I remember passing out a little after I was able to put out the fire on her legs. Woke up in the ambulance, broken leg and concussion. EMT said I was only able to save her from all the adrenaline coursing through my system. The police that wrote the report found her at fault and said I was hero, but no good deed goes unpunished. She had first-degree burns on her legs and face, and had super cheap ass insurance. She ended up suing me and dragging me into a 4-year legal process that not only cost my insurance thousands, but had me spending money on legal fees and lost wages from constantly having to go to court. It was finally settled because somehow all she needed was to prove I was at least 1% at fault and my insurance folded. She was awarded my full liability, $200,000, plus $25,000 that I'm on the hook for personally. I was barely able to get my car paid off and whatever was left in my pocket for a new car had to go to her. It's been 6 years since the accident and I still owe about $12,000, but I'm trying to avoid paying that. The last time I talked to my attorney after she was awarded damages, he said something that I'll always think back on and wish I could have changed my actions. He said if he was in my shoes and knew the outcome, he would have left her in there to burn. In your shoes, I would probably try to get that on the news and spread around the story, including her name as much as humanly possible. I would make it my life goal that everyone this woman knows fully understands what a disgusting excuse for a human being she is. Too bad she didn't die. I was in the parking lot of a store one time when a lady dropped a bunch of stuff off her cart. She was having trouble picking up a box of bulk items. I told her that I would help her and we both picked the box up and put it in the trunk of her car. She then sprayed me with pepper spray and screamed. I was left confused at why I was attacked as she almost ran me over driving out of there. I can't see if you just came up and grabbed it, but to help you then spray you. What a bitch. A friend of mine was walking down the street late at night when he saw a man lying in an alleyway. The guy looked as though he'd been really hurt and was asking for help. My friend approached him to find out how badly he'd been hurt and what he needed to do. When he did, a bunch of guys ambushed him, beat him up and stole all his money. The whole thing had been set up just to lure him into a vulnerable situation. It's fucking terrible to take advantage of someone's kindness like that. I read a story of a man driving in the middle of the night on a street surrounded by cornfields when he saw a man laying in the street ahead not moving. He contemplated helping, but ultimately decided he should find help ahead to play it safe. He carefully drove around the body and slowly drove off, and when he looked in his rear view he saw the body stand up and slink away into the cornfields. Most likely there was an ambush waiting. I offered my seat to an elderly lady in the bus. Turned out she wasn't that old and felt offended, so she screamed at me. Almost the same thing happened to me. Old lady didn't scream at me, but she did say in a very catty tone, "Don't think you're doing anything special." But she did sit down. I was really invested in the company I worked for and loved working there. They got bought out by another company who treated employees like dirt. About a month in, we were having server issues with one of our migrated servers, and I stayed an extra 8 hours to help get it back up and running before the next workday. Then the next day I worked my regular 9 hours, our lunch break, and then came back in at 10 PM and worked an extra 4 hours to help resolve an issue with a client in China. On the third day I was so tired I slept through my alarm and was probably about 2 hours late. My boss had a fit telling me how unprofessional it was to show up late, and if I did it again I would be fired. He also pulled the "I don't want to hear any of your excuses, just listen to me" rant, which I find to be incredibly unprofessional. I work salary and wasn't compensated for any of my time. Thankfully I no longer work there. I have a similar story. I was working for a small company that was struggling. One night, the other programmer, a friend of mine from before getting hired, stayed overnight to bust our ass for a client. We literally slept in the floor that night, then woke up and worked the whole next day. After that, I started having to stay until 11 PM or so. It was over an hour drive to work because of the traffic, so I had exactly 8 hours per day when I wasn't working. One day during all this I get into work at 9:15 and my boss has the gall to say, "I'm going to need you come in on time." Oh, you motherfucker. Karma had my back, though. He got deported for tax fraud and child neglect. Gave a one-eyed homeless guy $5. He wandered off, apparently telling other homeless guys his good fortune. Homeless guys began melting out of the scenery asking for their $5. I realized my mistake at that point and stopped being generous. They apparently turned their anger on one I and stabbed him for his $5. I found out when questioned by police. Just like in Kota 2 when you land on Narshada and give a refuge 5 credits. HMMMMMMMMM. I accidentally walked out of my local deli without paying for my soda. So being the good person that I am, I went back in to pay for it. 2 minutes later I come back out to find that my bike had been stolen. This thread has taught me if I want to do the right thing, I need to lock up my bike first. When I was in high school I had a friend who was troubled. We met when she moved into town to live with her mother, after being raised by her grandparents, who turned out to be a drug abuser who treated her children like shit, including my friend who eventually moved back in with her grandparents a couple of hours away. We kept in touch, and I woke up at 3 AM one day, the morning of friend's birthday, to my mom handing me the phone, saying it was my friend. Friend had been getting progressively stranger, and that morning was suicidal. She was determined to kill herself at the same time she had been born. It felt right that way. Awesome nonsense. I spent the next 4 hours on the phone with her trying to calm her down and convince her to seek help. She finally gave her consent for me to speak to the counselor she saw at my school, which I did as soon as I arrived. At 6 o'clock that night I got a call from her at the hospital, saying they were admitting her to the psych ward. The next morning I get called out of class to take a call from her grandparents, who are crying and falling over themselves thanking me for saving their beautiful girl. While she was committed, for about 3 months, there was a contact list for people who could call, visit, and write to her. I don't know the specifics of who determined it, or why, but I assume it's because she was underage and her grandparents wanted to protect her from her mother. They were the ones who explained it to me. I was the only person, aside from the grandparents, who was on that list. I called her regularly, wrote to her, and even made the 3-hour drive to go visit her once. I had explained to the few other friends she had in my area that she was in the ward and no one was allowed to contact her, but I would be happy to pass along what I could so she felt their support. Naturally, when she was released she turned on me, blaming me for 3 months of hell, which she gave no indication of during any of the contact visits we had during that time. She went through and told everyone she was admitted against her will. The contact list was bullshit and I was trying to keep the crazy all for myself, I guess. Whatever. No one believed me. Over the course of a couple of months, during which I was going through some serious medical stuff, I lost the few friends I had been able to make being a shy introvert. Some I had been close to for 4 or 5 years at the time. After a couple of months I connected with some new friends who treated me better than the old ones ever did anyway, and was, eventually, happier for it. A year or two ago she sent me a friend request on Facebook. It had been 6 or 7 years, so I figured, what the hell, I'm over it, and she seems to have grown up, too. Nope. The first thing I see on her wall is a conversation with one of the former friends talking shit about me. TLDR. Saved close friend's life, did everything I could to be there for her during 3-month stay at the psych facility, only to be immediately devoured by high school bitches, putting me through several months of hell. Years later I try to forgive and forget only to discover some people never leave high school. Edited to say thank you to whoever gifted me gold. 3. High school never ends, the people just get taller. Some of them don't even get taller. In 7th grade gave a choking girl a Heimlich maneuver, saved her life, no one else knew how, and I was suspended for 5 days for sexual harassment. Her parents tried to sue, but it went nowhere. Edit, wow, Reddit gold. Thanks stranger. WTF, I would be furious if I were your parents. You didn't deserve that. When I was young I was able to save money very well. No bank or anything, just a wooden box under my bed that used to hold dominoes. Every week I would cash my paycheck, put the vast majority in the box, and keep a little pocket money for myself. When I was 18 I worked at a video store. Everyone who worked there were very good friends. One day we were told by our boss, a really great guy named Drew, that he had come down with stomach cancer. I talked to him afterwards and was sad to hear that the store's terrible insurance was causing Drew to have to choose between treatments or paying his rent. Drew was gay and his family had disowned him so he had no help. I thought about it for a few days and decided I would help him out. I agreed to loan him money so he could pay his rent. He would pay me back when able and everything would be great. I gave him $3,000 I had saved since I was 12, a little over 3 actually, but who is counting right? Cut to 5 months later. I come to work one night to see Drew being dragged out by the police. Turns out he had a massive coke problem and had been stealing from the store. He was such a good guy I actually fought for him at work for a month or so until I saw the evidence. I also learned that he never had cancer. It was a scam he had used on several friends of his so him and his boyfriend could get high. I have never been able to get back to where I was financially. I am not sure what changed, maybe because I got a bank account, maybe emotionally it messed me up, I am not sure. I have $60 to my name now. One thing is for sure, I have never trusted people the same since. Not sure anything will be able to give me that back. My friend and I were walking through the city late at night. Extremely drunk man appears beside us, mumbles about not telling the Christians their names because they're following him, then lollops on with his ass crack showing. He scared the shit out of me, so friend and I hang back a bit to avoid catching up with him. He staggers out into oncoming traffic. Miraculously avoids being hit. I suggest to friend that we call the police to pick him up because we don't want him to die cause someone else's death. Drunk man reaches the other side of the road, trips over a bin, gets up and starts kicking the bin vigorously. Then suddenly keels over. Friend and I start calling an ambulance and go over to check the exact address of the corner drunk guy is on. The emergency operator asks me to check if he's breathing. I do, praying that I won't have to give CPR to this very drunk and rather melty looking man. Luckily, he is breathing, and after a couple of seconds his eyes even flick to me. I go back to my friend. Notice drunk guy is pulling himself up on the bins. Think he's going to lollop off and we'll have to follow him to give directions to the ambulance people. That's not what he does. He comes charging towards me and my friend and tries to grab her. I get between them and we take off, with me still on the phone to the emergency operator. We're near Euston Tube Station, so we start running towards that. Stupidly, we take the path across the green, which is poorly lit and creepy, but it is the fastest way to the station. Drunk guy chases us. But luckily, he's so drunk that every time he almost catches us, he trips over something or collides with a bench or just plain heads off in a different direction. We are still running at this point. It's this strange refusal to run flat out, because somehow running makes it less scary. A group of men is coming towards us. I am still on the phone to the operator, who is sending police to our location, who is talking to us until we're safe. We ask the group of men to walk us to the station. Turns out they don't speak English. They just point at it. This gives drunk guy time to catch up with us again and try to grab my friend. We take off again and turn in towards the bus stops outside the station. To do this, we have to go past some recycling bins. A homeless guy comes out from behind them and asks 10 pence for a homeless man. Normally, I would give him change. This is not normally. I apologize as we speed past him. Homeless guy bellows, "Fucking bitch cunts," and starts chasing us with drunk guy. Emergency operator says, "Oh, is that man helping you?" I say, No, he's chasing us too." We make it to the bus stop and the other people waiting for the bus. Drunk guy ambles off. Homeless guy asks for change from everyone at the bus stop. Ambulance arrives for drunk guy. I tell them that I don't mind if they beat him with sticks, to be quite frank, and that I hope he chokes on his own vomit. Then I point them in the direction that he went anyway. TLDR, tried to be helpful and call an ambulance for a dude who passed out drunk behind some bins. Got chased by said dude and a homeless guy while on the phone to the emergency services. My best friend was going through a messy breakup with his girlfriend. She was pissed, so she stole a bunch of his clothes and his cat ! And drove off to her apartment. We jumped into my car and gave chase. She pulled into her apartment complex and parked before realizing we were behind her, so I pulled up behind her and blocked her car in. She started screaming at me to move my car, and I said fuck no while my friend called the cops. He had had a cat for 8 years and was desperately attached to it. He had only had the girlfriend for 2 years. The cops get there, and they talk to everyone. They figure out the situation. They tell the girlfriend to return the cat and the clothes. Then an officer comes over to me, and says he's considering arresting me for false imprisonment. My fucking jaw dropped. Normally, I'm super respectful and cool with the cops, but it was just too much for me to swallow. Are you kidding me right now? Not at all. You put your car behind hers, making it impossible for her to leave. You kept her there against her will, and that's a crime. She could have gotten out of the car and walked away at any time. I was only stopping her from feeling the scene with stolen property. Oh, are you a police officer now? Is that your job? I stared at him sullenly, a look of "you can't be fucking serious" on my face. I guess we don't do anything this time, but next time you shouldn't get involved in disputes like this. It's a matter for the police, and you should leave it up to us. Christ, what a fucking mess that night was. Absolutely refusing to let a drunk buddy drive his wife home. Apparently, I'm no fun anymore. It isn't safe, no matter how not drunk they think they are. Tonight you get lucky and reach home alright. Next time, who knows? Being a killjoy is still better than being dead. There was a guy at work who would always talk about bringing a gun to work and showing our boss he won't take it anymore and he can understand why those people shoot up their place of employment. I told my boss about it, and after an investigation, they fired the guy. I think I did the right thing, and maybe it saved the lives of people at work. But I just found out that he killed himself last week because of it. As awful as this is to say, that is probably one of the better outcomes from this situation. He was clearly unstable, and he had access to guns. From my perspective, having the unstable violent person die instead of one or more random co-workers just makes the world a safer place. A work friend of mine was going through a nasty divorce. Even though it wasn't finalized, he was seeing another woman at work on the down low, but everyone at the office had suspicions. Having dealt with divorce before, I sent him an email explaining that people were talking and he may want to be more discreet as to not exacerbate things with his divorce. He told the down low girl what I had said. She told me to mind my business. I explained over and over again that I meant well and it was nothing against her. She convinced him not to talk to me anymore and we haven't spoken since. TL. Doctor gave advice about divorce. Lost a friend. Dude, boss office 247. Everyone in the office knew you were in love with Katrina yourself and your whole motivation to get us to slow down was for your own selfish interests. Also, I know it was you that reported my infidelity. We were on a break. To my ex-wife's divorce attorney. Some friend. Steve. Went to get a pap smear while still living at home with my mother. Had recently gotten my own cell phone, and asked them to call it, instead of my house, as it was my most recent contact number, and the easiest way to reach me about my personal medical issues. They called my house to tell me they had an abnormal culture, so as I sat in the other room, trying to avoid my mother and figure out exactly what they were telling me, I had her in my ear asking what's that all about. So I was honest, apparently I had an abnormal pap, I need to go back and get a second one, apparently they think I have HPV. She instantly explodes into "you have genital warts. Oh my god." And that kind of a tirade, berating me for being unsafe, what if you've infected us? And things like that, despite her being a surgical tech previously, and knowing that HPV does not work like that. Your brother may use your razors, what if he gets warts? Yes, my manly little brother is going to use my intuition razor with the girly block of soap and the big ass handle to what? Shave his face. His pubes. It ultimately resulted in me getting kicked out. Oh, and the bonus. False positive, my mother kicked me out for being forthcoming and honest with her about my sexual life, after years of ensuring me that I could always come to her and to never be embarrassed. Needless to say, she was wrong. Sorry. She was wrong to do that. I had to pack all that I could into 2 tiny suitcases, and wait over 6 hours for someone to come pick me up, and to take me away. Things are strained now because of some other family issues, and while I love my mother, I resent her for that. Edit 1. A false positive. HPV free. Edit 2. I really appreciate all of the kind words and support that you've all offered me. And to everyone who called my mother a bitch or a cunt, or crazy, you are right. And while I would never say those things to her face, I do have to admit, I've thought that to myself, and felt terribly guilty about it. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who took time to read, or even write back. Some of you were confusing, but most of you were incredibly supportive and made me realize I still haven't properly dealt with this, or some other situations that have arisen in my life because of her. As to how could you love your mother after this kind of questions, I don't know. I honestly don't know. She's my mother, I love her, I just sometimes don't like her, or agree with her. We are all human, and we all make mistakes. Overall, I have learned that I'm much stronger than previously thought, and I've also learned how I would approach this situation if when I have children of my own. That's awful. HPV is insanely widespread, and it's estimated that something like 75% of the sexually active adult population will contract it in some form during their lives. I can see why she might be a little upset, but that's a massive overreaction on her part. I once refused to have sex with a girl because she was, at the time, super messed up on drugs and I just didn't think it was right. She couldn't even remember who I was. I stayed the night to take care of her instead. Next day, she told all our mutual friends that I raped her. It didn't end well for me. I came close to ending up in a similar situation my last year of college. Girl I liked, and who was pretty into me but had a distant boyfriend, was over and we were hanging out having a few drinks. She turned out to be a super lightweight and got trashed ridiculously fast, passing out in the bathroom. In retrospect, this was partially my fault. I had an inhuman tolerance due to random luck, genetics, what have you, and mixed my drinks strong without thinking. 10 minutes later I knock a few times, etc, and no response, so I get worried enough to yell that if I don't hear back soon I'm going to release the lock on the door and come in. No answer or audible sounds from inside, so I release the catch and slowly crack the door while declaring that I had to check on her, and then I see that she is collapsed on the floor with her pants halfway up. At this stage all I can think about it, fuck this. Someone is going to see this and think date rape, so I quickly made sure she was breathing regularly and then immediately called 2 friends, one guy and one girl, over to help me deal with it. I was so glad I did too, because when they showed up and I went to carry her into a spare bedroom to sleep it off, she woke up enough to come at me crazily, tried to pin my arms and make out with me, pleading for me to sleep with her, etc. She didn't even remember it when she woke up, but I was super glad I had a female friend there to tell her what happened rather than her have to take my word on finding her passed out in the bathroom in that state. TLDR, never, ever be alone in those types of situations when at all possible. You should always have someone of either gender on standby to help you, so that fake accusations will not hold any weight. Oh boy, I finally get to tell what happened. I was about 17 when this went down. First off, just to help with context, in my province once you get your license to drive by yourself, you still have to wait 15 months before you can have more than one person in your vehicle with you between 1 and 5 AM. So, I go to this fundraiser party out in the country with my buddy. It's the country, so most underage people can get alcohol anyway. So after, I'm about to drive me and my friend home when I see 2 girls from my school going to get a ride with since drunk asshole. I step in, offer them a ride, since I'm sober. On the way back to our town, a cop pulls me over and gives me a ticket for too many people in my car, since it turns out I was at 14 months and 21 days. I'm furious with this since I was doing the right thing. Do I go to court to fight it? I explain I was trying to help them and I saved their lives. The drunken asshole ended up rolling his truck. Judge says I did the right thing, clears my record and makes me party the minimum amount for the ticket, which was a lot less than I could have been. Happy ending? Not quite. About 3 months later, I get a call from the provincial insurance company for me to go see them about the ticket. I go see them and once again explain that I was trying to help. After about 30 minutes of discussion between the 3 people sitting in, they inform me that although my intentions might have been good, I acted irresponsibly and stupidly, endangering my life, the girl lives and everyone else on the road. They then classified me as a dangerous driver, fined me $500, suspended my license for 3 months, charged me a couple $100 to renew my license. It will take me another 2 years to get to the provincial average, and gave me a 5-year probation period where if I get any type of ticket for no matter what, my license is gone for 2 years. Sorry for any mistakes, I'm submitting this on my new phone. Edit. I didn't fix the grammar mistakes since you guys were having fun with it, but just to clear things up a little, I'm from the prairies, and everything motor vehicle related, licensing, registration, is all run by a government branch. I fought the ticket given to me by the RCMP and the Crown cleared my record, but the province can still jump in and mess with my license, insurance, etc., which they did. The cost of keeping your license every year is based on a points system, where year of good driving, no at-fault accidents or tickets, gives you a +1. Everyone starts at zero, $45 a year, and accidents tickets put you in the minuses, so it's more expensive. They decided to give me a -10, so my license cost me over $500 that year. The silver lining to this is when you're minus, if you're good for a year, they'll bump you up 2 or 3 points, so I'm going to be at 0 either this year or next. TLDR, saved 2 girls' lives, got my license revoked and I was fined. My friends in college had to kill and dissect mice. There were too many authorized mice for the class, so they got the leftover little dude and carefully revived him, gave him water, stroked his fur, and then took him outside and released him on the lawn outside the cafeteria. Free crumbs for life. He made it several yards before a bird swooped down and grabbed him. Are your friends these guys? YouTube webpage. At my last retail management job, I was cashing out one of the cashiers and her till was $300 short on the nose. Normally there wasn't that much cash in there, but someone had paid for a crib in cash about 20 minutes before, and since she was leaving soon, me and the store manager, decided to just let it go. So I tell her she's short, she has no idea where it is. Empties her pockets, her idea, nothing. Shows me her purse, nothing. Look in all the parts of the drawer, nothing. Look through the tape with all the transactions, nothing for no sales or anything. Just disappeared. This is where my good deed goes punished. The cash drawers have locks that could be opened, but we didn't have keys for them. I grab every random key I can find in the office and try them. Finally, with a little gimming, a maintenance key opens the drawer. I try it a few times, works, show my manager, and while it doesn't find the money, it's a clue. At least we know there is a key that will open the drawers and we can fix that, is what I'm thinking. I come in the next day, get called into the office with my boss and the store's owners. I figure they want to talk about it. What I figured out, maybe give me a medal, nope, fired me. For A, leaving the cash in there, even though my boss said to, and B, compromising the integrity of the cash by having a key lying around, that is. I found how it might have happened. My manager walked me out and his final words were sorry, but we had to punish someone for something after this. I was walking to the garage through the main lobby of the hospital work at, I'm a nurse, and saw a woman sprawled across the floor with family around her. I ran over to help and asked, "Are you okay?" Good lord. That woman sits straight up and starts screaming. Did she just ask Emmy if I'm okay? Did she just ask Emmy if I am question mark? And proceeds to throw punches at me. They all missed even though I was in WTF mode. Apparently, she just found out a family member passed away and had fallen to the ground from shock. I was waiting for bus when I saw a middle-aged woman who looked really sad, and was apparently crying. Being the socially awkward person I am, I struggled with myself for a bit because I wanted to help her but I didn't have the courage to. When I finally managed to ask her, in my kindest tone, if she needed any help, she started screaming at me and told me I had to stop bothering her. Turned out she was mentally unstable. I know it's not exactly a horrible backfire, but it was quite sad to me, especially because of all the effort that took me to bring up the courage to try and help her. My best friend really liked this girl and he was trying to get her attention, so he asked me what would get my attention. I gave him advice, boosted his ego. He was really appreciative of my help, said thanks so many times. Then I didn't hear from him for months. I'd send messages, I called, and nothing. Then I saw him on the street, I said hi, he ignored me and kept walking. Naturally, I was very confused and hurt and didn't know what happened. So I started asking my other friends. Apparently he was still talking to them, so it was just me. On my final attempt to talk to him, about 7 months later, he told me that he was dating the girl that he asked my advice on. He told me she really hates you. Wow, thanks, considering I've never even met the chick. So basically, this girl told him to never talk to me again if he wanted to date her. He chose her. I haven't spoken to him in years. TLDR, I pushed a friend to ask out this girl, she makes him never speak to me again. I saved a bird that was stuck in a fence. It was a wooden privacy fence and the bird had managed to get its head stuck in between 2 boards of the fence. All I had to do was grab the bird and lift it up above the boards. Anyway, it pooped on me. This guy was saying very depraved things to my girlfriend and I told him to apologize. After it was clear he wouldn't, I tried to walk away and devalue his opinion, but he followed me insisting we fight. After dodging 2 of his swings, I knock him in the brow, cutting him open and ending the fight. Later on though, His friends found me at the bar down the street and beat the living crap out of me. Decrepit means worn out or ruined because of age or neglect. Pretty sure that's not what you meant to say. Perhaps depraved, meaning morally corrupt? A lawyer friend of mine represented a guy, pulled over for speeding or something, asked by the officer, "Do you have any firearms?" The man responds honestly, "Well, I have one locked up at home but not on me." Turns out, since the time that he legally purchased and registered his firearm, Congress had passed a law making it a federal felony for anyone ever convicted of domestic assault to own or possess a firearm. Problem is, even though the Commonwealth had a list of people convicted of domestic assault, and a list of people with registered firearms, nobody let our guy know that when he answered this question a bit too honestly, he was confessing to a federal felony with a minimum sentence of 5 years in the pen. Edit, to stop annoying you assimilator. Good place to post this. Never talk to the police. YouTube webpage. I let another driver get in front of me in the fast lane when I could have sped up and blocked him. He sped up to about 80 miles per hour and a half mile down the road from me he rear-ended a car that blew a tire and wrecked. I did not check the news to see if anyone died and I never will. That's not your fault. It's the other driver's fault for driving like an asshole. These stories are a total downer. I wish you all happy good deeds in the future that turn out nicely. Yes. I am using a throwaway. I walked out of a bar and saw a man and a woman assaulting a homeless man. The homeless guy was about 5 feet 4 inches and about 110 pounds and he was already down on his knees. The man and woman were both Samoan from their looks, so they were big, very big. She was about 6 feet 1 inches and about 220 and her male companion was really big, about 6 feet 5 inches and over 300 pounds. I ran up to them and told them to stop, which was really a big mistake on my part. I should have just yelled police or something to get them to stop, but hindsight is 20/20. The woman came after me and her friend tried to flank me, which is super dangerous for me at this point. I am 5 minutes and 10 seconds and 200 pounds and can handle myself, but this is quickly becoming something that I cannot handle. I pulled my knife before she could get to me and her friend could get behind me. Her big companion saw that I was not fucking around now and that I will not go down without a serious fight. As a side note here to anyone who is assaulted, never go down in a street fight. You are defenseless and can easily be very hurt, crippled, or killed. Real life is not the movies and people do not stop beating you because you are defenseless. On with the story. The big Samoan guy grabbed her and held her and said that I had a knife and to let me leave, and I do. I jog the hell out of there and I am about a block away when I hear a loud yell. As I spin around I see the woman running full speed at me and I just have enough time to get my hands up and spin her into the street and her boyfriend about 50 yards behind her at a full run toward me also. She starts swinging at me hard, not like some dainty girl, but for real trying to knock me out. Remember she outweighs me by 20 pounds and I have her huge guy friend now barreling down on me from behind. Dart. I decide to knock her out and I unload everything I have into her jaw. She goes down instantly and is out cold. I turn to face her boyfriend who I now about 10 yards away and I see him just stop cold and look at her laying in the street. He just walks past me and picks up her head and looks up at me. At this very moment some guys who saw me basically just knock some girl out, without any context, yell something and start running toward me. They are about a block away. The big Samoan guy looks at me with the really sad expression like he is really sorry for everything and just says run. And I do. I fucking run like someone is trying to kill me because these guys who saw me hit her are fucking coming to kick my ass and there are a bunch of them. I run to my car and I get the hell out of there. I get away and I have never told a single person about this incident, until right now. I have never been so scared as I was that night. I had 2 good friends who dated for a very long time, and fought like miserable spouses. We all know that couple. So they finally break up and the dude has to move out. I didn't want to get involved in their messy breakup so I declined him when he asked to stay with me. Fast forward a few days and he gets kicked out of his friend's house. who lives with his mom, and can't go home to his parents because of his new job, so I begrudgingly say yes because I know I would hope for the same generosity in that position. A few weeks go by with no drama, and when I have to go out of town for 2 weeks I'm glad to have someone watch the apartment. My landlord calls me a few days later saying my shower leaked and flooded the downstairs apartment, causing over $2,000 in damage to both my apartment and the downstairs one. My friend denies the whole thing, will not admit he did anything wrong, and also refuses to help me pay for it. I got kicked out, never got my security, and had to pay an additional $10 because of a clause in the lease saying it was my responsibility to maintain all plumbing. TLDR, no good deed goes unpunished. Maybe you should have done some research. You didn't owe anything, sorry to say, but you lost your security deposit and $1,000 because of a lack of experience. I've posted this before, but I will share this one again. So here is my story. It was Christmas Eve night a few years back in Kansas City, Missouri. There was considerable snowfall and the city was having one of our worst winters in years. I was leaving my girl's house around 11 p.m. who lived about 8 minutes away from where I stayed. Normally this would be a quick zip down Blue Park and I would be home, but there was already about 2.5 inches of snow and my car was a beater, but I was managing. As I am heading down the road I see a guy and his kid, I shit you, not without a coat on, standing in front of a car in a liquor store parking lot. Now I could give a shit honestly if an adult got himself in trouble. Normally I would keep on going, but I honestly felt bad for the kid and he had to be cold with no coat and all. So anyhow I pull up and ask if he needs a jump. No dog, I got a bad starter, it fucks up when it's cold, the man replies. After I figure out if there's nothing I can help with, I ask if he would like me to call someone. Nah, homie, but if you could give me a ride to my house that'd be cool as hell. His street was about 3 streets back down the road, so I figure no big deal. Him and his kid huddle in the car. At this point I notice the man reeks of marijuana and he's probably high. Now the important thing to remember in this story is that the main street I was on was an emergency snow route, meaning it had been pre-treated and the plows had already ran through it. This of course makes the snow at the entrances to side streets higher and a bit more packed, a fact I hadn't really considered until I turned into his street and got my front two tires stuck completely in snow. When it was clear I was stuck and couldn't go forward or backwards, the man said, "Ah shit, my bad man. My house is pretty close from here, good looking out though," and then proceeded to get out of my car and walk to his front door. A front door I could see from my car that was stuck. He did not offer to help me get my car unstuck, not that we could have with the two of us, nor did he offer to let me come in and wait for a tow truck. I ended up spending Christmas morning that year hanging out at a 7/11 for about 6.5 hours waiting on a tow truck. TLDR, when in doubt remember the 285th rule of acquisition, and fucks no. I was at a club and saw my friend's girlfriend sitting in a booth, not looking so great. I decided to go over to help. I told my friend he should probably take her home and helped her to start walking outside. She then threw up all over my sports jacket. At that point, I had vomit all over me and the bouncer wanted her gone ASAP, so I had to leave the club in a hurry. In all the excitement, I forgot that I had left my tab open, which at this club required both your driver's license and credit card. By the time I realized this, I was about 25 miles away with no hope of going back. I called another of my friends who was still there to close it for me. He called back to say that they didn't have my door credit card, but that the bartender had given him someone else's instead. He was pretty drunk, so I wasn't sure what was going on. I later called the club about 20 times and went back there, but no door credit card. I heard of a story when one guy was riding a bike when he saw an elderly lady trying to cross the street while attempting holding multiple bags of groceries. He put his bike down to help this woman. Just as he crossed the street with her, he turned and witnessed his bike being stolen. Well, that's as good a time as any to scream fuck, if I've ever heard one. This happened today. My former sir was cutting herself and sending me pictures. This scared the hell out of me and I contacted my local school's counselor to have them check her out. She ended up beating me up. I don't hit girls, so I sorta just took it, and making this huge scene in public. She doesn't think she did anything wrong, and I walked away with bloody cuts and bruises. Edit. I set down my phone for an hour and when I picked it back up I had 17 new text messages and 14 missed calls. All from her. I told her that I wanted nothing to do with her anymore, but she doesn't take no for an answer. She has threatened to beat me more if I try to avoid her. As of right now, the school have told her that she is not allowed to return unless she is cleared as mentally stable by 2 different doctors. This terrifies me that she is this dangerous. I am 100% afraid now to leave my house. She has been known to stalk me before and she is threatening to beat the hell out of me more. I am a nice guy, and I want to physically defend myself, but I will be socially vilified if I touch her even in defense using minimal force. I am fucked. My best friend was having a horrible day, so I took her and her 3 kids to a nice restaurant to give her a break. When we were almost finished eating, she pulled a 1.5 foot long hair out of her mashed potatoes and nearly puked. I read this as your friend pulled out her foot and mashed her potatoes, which seemed highly plausible given the amount of time I spend on the internet. I'm sorry about the hair in your food though. I trusted a client who told me she rushed out of the house with just one debit card to get her puppy to Maya when her other dog attacked it and popped its eye out. Her puppy needed surgery and she could only leave like half the money but said she would pay the rest on pickup. She seemed legit, and the story seemed plausible, so I did the surgery, even though it wasn't a life-threatening issue. Come back to work the next night to find out I was played, they had no more money, and my boss isn't too happy with me. Basically, I'll never trust anyone's sob story again and I feel used. Tell me you don't have the money and I'll help you figure out a plan. Don't lie to me. Ugh. Telling my friend to break up with a girl who was clearly wrong for him and having her try to kill herself. Twice. Join the army to serve my country. You will see the world, they said. Corrected girlfriend during a hand job. I don't have a girlfriend anymore. My sister dropped her phone at the top of the stairs. It was about to bounce past me. Instead of catching it, it hit my hand and fell about 2 meters onto tile and exploded instead of gently tumbling down a carpeted staircase. I think this is an example of when genuine human camaraderie trumps rules, but I was young and confused and fucked myself over. My best friend, Sam, was eating snack during non-snack time in 4th grade. She was a basketball player and I think the coach had asked to see her during snack time. She was quickly shoveling some crackers into her mouth while we were getting books out for the next class. I have always had an oddly rigid sense of right and wrong. Sometimes this is a wonderful, loyal quality. But when I was younger, I would have trouble relaxing. I would automatically equate not following the rules with wrong. I raised my hand, while giving a sympathetic look to Sam, as if to say I have to do this, you understand, don't you? Like I was facing some conflicted, dramatic decision. I told the teacher, Sam is eating snack and it's not snack time. The teacher immediately understood why, sighed and said, Sam, I'm really sorry. I know you're hungry, but if I made an exception now, I'd always have to put it away. She then turned to me, in front of the whole class, and said, are you happy? She literally waited for me to respond, to which I said, well, number. Not at all. She gave a little remark about how she couldn't possibly know what I got out of telling on her in that instance, and I was absolutely mortified. I really thought I was doing the right thing. I hadn't separated rules from morality. Now I'm just as stringent about things I feel are right, cheating, stealing, etc. But know that sometimes disobeying rules doesn't equate wrong. Technically, in the end, I was right about the rules. But you can tell from how vividly I remember it that trying to help the teacher enforce them led to an awkward, mortifying end. And that's how Menomina learned a life lesson that day in Mrs. Ralph Witz's 4th grade classroom. It wasn't the books, lecture or the material on the blackboard that taught this lesson. This lesson was learned from the heart. Well, that's the news from Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. I had just broken up with my long-term girlfriend, Amy. It's a Saturday night and we go to pub to have some beers and just have fun. My friend Tom brings this girl Haley out, who apparently really just wants to get laid, no strings attached, and she wants to be set up with me. This is good news to me cause a good ol' rebound is just what the doctor ordered. However, I'm supposed to meet up with Amy the next day just to have a post-mortem breakup talk. To say whatever we need to say to each other. I'm in a weird place about the whole situation and I don't want to mess around with Haley right before talking to Amy. Especially if there was a chance we could have salvaged things, which I thought there was. In any scenario I just didn't want to be a skis bag to either girl and figured it was the classy thing to do to just give it a week or so for things to just be a bit smoother. So Tom tells Haley, King of Spoonerisms is just sorting out shit with his ex. It's a messy week, give him a week or so. To which Haley responds fuck that, I'm nobody's sloppy seconds. Amy ends up cancelling on me for our meetup. We don't patch things up. Haven't heard from Haley since. Lesson learned, the world doesn't give nice guys shit. TLDR, thought with brain instead of penis. Penis very angry at brain. I'm in a weird place about the whole situation and I don't want to mess around with Haley right before talking to Amy. You weren't doing the right thing. You weren't doing the wrong thing either. You didn't feel like messing with Haley, and you didn't. No bonus points for not boning someone you didn't feel like boning. Bitches be getting drunk every night and saying Strombert, we want the D. I say bitches, you drunk, I'll give you the D tomorrow. The next day, bitches be like I was drunk, I don't want the D no more, I should stop making good decisions. Lots of half statements without telling us what actually went on. If you have a story, tell it. Don't wait for multiple commenters to ask for the story. After a long night of drinking at the bar, me and my friends get picked up and are heading home. We stop at a gas station in a shitty part of town for Swedish fish and more beer and there is a guy with a flat tire in the parking lot. He asks if we have a tire jack and apparently my friend's was broken or some shit. I don't remember. The guy think we are just blowing him off and I can see is kind of upset so I tell him I'll come back with my car and it'll help him out. The guy calls BS and walks away. So now drunk me has to prove him wrong so when we get home I jump in my car and swerve my way back to the gas station. Guy is totally surprised to see me. So we pull out his spare tire and it is flat and the air pump at this gas station is broken. Shitty gas station in a shitty neighborhood. I tell him to throw the tire in the car and we will head down to the other gas station down the road. Me, skinny little white boy guy I am helping out. 6 feet 6 inches massive black dude, so we drive down and come right back. The problem is I am drunk. Apparently a cop watches this huge black dude get in my car and leave and come right back. Cop thinks it's a drug deal so they instantly pull me over when I get back to the gas station. This is about the time the guy in my car tells me he just got out of jail that week and can't be out right now. Fuck. We explain what is happening and the cop has to know I've been drinking. We're both convinced we're going to jail together that night. The police officer turns out to be a really nice lady cop and sees that we are both idiots but harmless so she just gives me a speeding ticket, 35 and a 25, and lets us go. TLDR, drunk me tried helping scary black man in ghetto. Cop thinks it's a drug deal. Should go to jail for DUI. Cop let us both go. Edit. After writing all this I realized this doesn't fit BC. It didn't end up horrible but it probably should have. IDK fuck it, I typed it all out so I am not deleting it now. Downvote me if you must, you bastards.